every facet of life, from philosophy to the physical world, you have this concept of push-pull, right? Even when we work out, we think about this stuff.
Best, yeah.
So,
plyometrics.
So when I think of push, I put my fear and anxiety and anger behind me and let it motivate me and push me forward, and I put my hope in front of me. Like what I fear is letting down my family and my men.
That's my biggest fear.
And what I hope for is to give them a better life. So I put that in front of me.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Same.
So you're being chased by stuff, and then you're chasing stuff.
Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. We have a special guest, AJ Buckley. You are a TV star. You've been on TV for a long ass time.
30 plus years.
Good Lord, dude.
Yeah.
What was your first? What was the first thing you were ever on?
One of the first was X-Files season 1. I played Agent Scully's brother.
Oh.
Yeah,
wow.
and then they wanted to bring me back, and they decided to like bring him back, but they were like, we need to make him a lot older to drive the story. So then they're like, we're gonna bring you back in another. And then I did an episode called War of the Cockroaches. And did you ever watch the X-Files? Fucking great show.
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, it's one of the most popular shows of all time.
Yeah, and so I played this like kid that was huffing manure meth.
Oh, you mean Jenkum?
Is it something like that? Yeah. And so but there was these killer cockroaches in it, and the cockroaches go into my arm and like run up and kill me. So
well, that's brutal.
Yeah, it was cool, man. But it was like it was, and it was one of those. I remember walking on set and just been like, "Oh wow, this is David Duchovny." He was the stud back then. Yeah. And I did like just a bunch of TV movies and stuff like that. But yeah, I was like 15.
Well, how? Let's go back to the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Dublin, Ireland. I was born in Dublin, Ireland until I was 6. Left Ireland, went to Vancouver, Canada. And I was in Canada till I was 17. But I started my career in Vancouver because everything was shooting up in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Which it's kind of starting now too because the dollar's just.
I mean, they had all those Canadian shows. Battlestar Galactica was produced up there.
X-Files, Battlestar Galactica, The Commish.
There's a bunch.
Yeah, and we had a big studio called Lionsgate Studios, and it was downtown. But it was like the greatest place to grow up, like, and have like and film in, because there was just so much opportunity there. And then I got a movie, Disturbing Behavior, that David Nutter directed. Who, for those who watch Game of Thrones and whatnot, he's one of the big main directors on Game of Thrones. And David cast me in this, and then he called my parents and were like, "Hey, he's testing really high for this movie in the screenings. He should come down and get an agent." And I was just turned 17, or was turning 17, and my parents were like, "Oh shit, okay." So I went down, got an agent, booked the very first job that I auditioned for, and then fucking, it was not that easy because I went on like a booking spree, and then all of a sudden I like kind of hit the puberty where I was too young to be high school and too young to be a cop, and that sort of like this weird window, and then I just stopped working and I spent any and all money that I have, and I ended up living out of my car. It was awesome, and I kind of had this decision to make of like, do I stay in my car and do what I love, or do I go back and do a 9 to 5 and realized that it didn't work out, and then I was like, fuck it, I'm chasing my dream. I got a family that loves me, but I made a pact with myself that I wouldn't accept $1 from another person because I had all this like fake. I did these safety nets that someone's always giving me money, this and that. So I was like, the next dollar that comes into my account will be money that I made myself. And it took about 1.5 years to really sort of go through everything, and I really just had to be okay with telling people I was fucking broke. I had no money. Because everyone in LA drives me fucking nuts. When you ask somebody in Los Angeles or just in the business, just, how are you? They start telling you what they're working on. Yeah. I didn't ask you what you're doing. I'm asking, how are you? Yeah, and I did the same thing because you're just like, oh, I'm doing this, and then you're bullshitting, and you're like, because you just want this, like, you be accepted, or like that you're kicking ass, and really, it's like, LA is this pretty flower that just wants to fucking praying mantis just eat you alive, and so then I got a call. I was in the 7-Eleven parking lot on Sunset Boulevard in Curson, and I had $32.95 to my name, and I I got the call that I got signed a 7-year contract with for CSI New York.
Oh wow, they send you immediately to a 7-year?
Yeah, well, I did it. I tested first. I went in. They were testing out lab rats, and my character Adam Ross was a nondescript, and I got an offer on a guest star on CSI Miami. You could only do one at a time. So I was about to accept that, and my agent called, and she's like, "Hey, they're actually interested. You're on a list of lab techs they want to test out, because it was a really tough role in the sense that you appear on page 9 or 10, and then you're out on page 32, 33. You're there, you have 3 scenes, and you're there just to drive fucking information. And I've told this story before, but one of my first big words was methoxydiacylpropyltryptamine.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly. Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne. And so I had to work with Gary, and while I was telling this, while I was freaking out during the scene, and I knew what this meant. I was like, I knew that if I got this, there was going to be a role there. Like there was a contract at the end of this. So from living out of my car to this was like game changer. And at the time, CSI New York was the biggest fucking franchise on the planet. It was Vegas, Miami, and New York.
Yeah.
And Gary Sinise is obviously one of my idols. And I was fumbling, and I was so nervous. I was hitting things over. And when they said cut, one of our showrunners, Pambese, was like, she sort of yelled over. She was like, "I love what you're doing, this nervous energy. I love this. It's great choice, AJ. Keep doing that." And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm totally doing that on
I
purpose.
was like, I'm soaked in, like literally soaked in sweat.
Yeah.
And then they asked me to stick around. I stuck around. Came back for 1 or 2 more episodes, just testing me out with all. I basically went to each character and they wrote a scene in. And then I got a call when I was in that parking lot, and it was like, "You got it." And I was like, it was absolutely like changed my life in so many different ways, because I went from, I barely graduated. Just school and me, just the way my brain worked. I'm dyslexic, but I just couldn't sit still. And they diagnose it now, but back then they just didn't know. And for me, when I'm learning, I have to hear everything. Like when I'm studying, I have to hear it. I've never actually physically read a book from start to finish. It's all audio, or I put it in Speechify.
Yeah.
It's changed my life. Like now, I'm like, go to the gym. I'm like just going through books or material or scripts, and my brain is just like, and my ability to memorize something. I could look at 4 or 5 pages of dialogue, and within 10 minutes, I will have it down. It's just the way it works. So I don't know where I was going with this story, but
well, I mean, you were talking about the origin part of this, and how your accidental nervous energy.
Oh yeah,
got you on one of the biggest shows ever.
Yeah, so it just changed, and to go from not going to college or anything like that to being on a show for 9 years at this beginning stage, I really learned that the writer's room, and started watching the grips and the electrics and the camera guys, and one of our showrunners, Peter Lenkoff, he really took me under his wing and saw that I had a real interest for storytelling, and he just opened the door. He's like, he's like, treat this like your school, treat this like college. So I really took advantage of it, because I was only working 2 to 3 days a week at most, because I was always in the lab. Anytime that I got out of the lab, like I think it was 2 times I got out of the lab to go on a date, both girls died. And then I don't know what else happened. The other one, I was like kidnapped or something. I was just a disaster outside that. But yeah, it was that series was just. And the crazy fun fact is, where we filmed that in L.A. is the same stage that we filmed SEAL Team at.
The CBS stage.
Yeah, we filmed on stage 3. We filmed CSI New York, so I was on that for 9 years, and then across the bridge was stage 3, which we were at for 7 years. So.
That's dope. By the way, for those who heard Peter Lenkoff and are wondering why they recognize the name, Demolition Man.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a legend.
He wrote like the first couple seasons of 24, I think, too.
Yeah, that and Demolition Man. I think he did The Last Boy Scout. I think. I mean, his story is. You ever want to get an amazing story? You should have him on the podcast. His story is just. He was like 22 years old. He wrote some Pauly Shore movies. Like, what was the one he did with Alec Baldwin? He did Encino Man, and he did Son-in-Law. His son-in-law.
Son-in-law, yeah.
I mean, just that was when Pauly Shore was Pauly Shore.
Yeah.
So he did all these like great things. So, but just and then he went on like at the time, he's one of the most successful writer producers at CBS. Like he had CSI New York syndicated, MacGyver, Hawaii Five-0. So I think it's like 5 or 6, shows that he did that all went to syndication that were his shows. So, but just I owe a lot to that guy. That guy really,
Well, speaking of owing a lot to people,
do I gotta get naked?
yes.
What do
this
I owe you?
is this is actually a casting couch. Working with working with a guy like Gary Sinise must have been nice. I mean, he had the Gary Sinise Foundation. One of the first things they did, in the GWAT at least, was when guys got out of the military, they would buy them a suit from Joseph A. Banks so they could go to job interviews. And I got one from him right when I got out. For not actually from him, obviously, but through the foundation. But he's been, he was an old school FOA guy, which I don't know if FOA really exists anymore. It might be coming back now. FOA is Friends of Abe. It's like a conservative group in Hollywood. I think the last president was what's his nuts, the guy from Justified, the captain, the old guy. What's the fuck's his name? Nick Searcy. Nick Searcy. I don't know if it's still going on or not, but there's a lot more repubes in LA these days. You know? But Gary's always been a big supporter of military veterans and stuff like that. But he's also, I've known several people who have worked long term with him, and he's also like a bonus dad to any dude that's around. It's so weird how much he mentors people. Not weird, but he's mentored me. He really takes it
he's
seriously.
Mentored me, and like he just is. I say this, I've never met more of a selfless person. That guy, and I really saw it when, like, we've all been through it. There's certain people that they show up, they take the picture, they shake the hands, and they're gone. And it is just for them, their perception. I've seen Gary Sinise do things, and there's not one camera around. And I've seen him like sit there and be emotional with, I just was down at the Snowball Express in Florida with him. And there was 1,800 people that were all family members that he had down there for a week. He had, the first week was military, the second week was first responders. And he takes care of everything. And the kids all have these T-shirts on. It's heartbreaking, but it says, I'm here to remember my hero. And Gary puts this, like, these kids, they all have this group of friends that they see each year, and they get to hang out with and go and have the when I say, like, everything is taken care of. Gary has half the park shut down at night that it's just for them. Like, as many rides as you want, everything, there's music, there's this, and then there's like a room that you go in. I was in bits at it, but it's the room where they remember, and you can go in and just spend time alone and with the thing. And there's I'd never seen anything like this. It was so huge, and they have like rooms for school. They have rooms. There's just a lot of the times. What I realize is it's not just about the veteran but it's their support system, the wife and kids. And I didn't realize that until I started working with Gary. Like it's like the guy that either has come back and he's wounded or he lost his life. But then it's the people that were that circle there that is so broken without it. And Gary comes in and just does this phenomenal job.
Yeah. So my friend Sarah Verardo, she runs the Independence Fund. I think you've run into them before. Save Our Allies and all that stuff. Yeah. Her husband was catastrophically wounded in Afghanistan, and she does a lot of advocacy work. And one of the things was in North Carolina, there's I can't remember what it's called, Heroes Day or something like that. And it's the day that her husband got fucked up or whatever. Yeah. So Gary's son died of an overdose in January of last year. And we had this event in April, and he showed up and played a full concert.
Gary Sinise?
Sinise,
yes, his son died of cancer.
Cancer, cancer, not an overdose. Yeah. And it was kind of
Mac. His name's Mac.
It was kind of a long-term
Yeah, I knew Mac.
thing.
Mac. Yeah.
Super sad. And it was the first public appearance he had made, actually. Yeah. With the Lieutenant Dan, or any public appearance since it happened. Yeah. And, despite his own, I mean, that's fucking no parent ever wants.
And
to
him
bury
and
their
Mac
child.
were like inseparable.
Yeah, I mean, and it had been going on for about 6 years, I think, something like that.
It was a really rare spinal cancer, I believe.
Yeah, I can't. Maybe your character could have pronounced it, but I certainly can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a super sad situation, but still, he found the time to come out and do this. He took a picture with every motherfucker that came up. All of it, right? I mean,
and I think
like that.
Maybe that was a part of his healing too, because Mac was very involved in that. Like I'd met Mac when we were doing CSI New York. Gary Sinise's character on CSI was Mac, so he named it after his son. Mac was a great kid, and when we'd go down to the VA and hand out food and stuff, he was very much involved in the Gary Sinise Foundation. But I mean, to lose no parent should have to go through losing a child, but for all that Gary has done, and still, most people will be like, "I'm out, I'm done," But he, I think, just got so much strength from that community, and I really feel like a lot of people really. There was a home there that he built that people was like, all right, it's your time to grieve. Like, let us carry you for a bit. But he's just one of those guys, man. There's certain foundations that I've worked with, that Gary Sinise Foundation, Hope for Warriors, that really put so much into, like, they don't have like these crazy, offices and all this fucking shit, and that it's wasted. It's just pure wasted money. It is put into what you see, and when you meet the people at these foundations and stuff, and you see the homes that they've been built in, and the stories of how it's helped the families is, I don't know, just it's and how much it's growing. Because what sucks is, I think I've even talked to you about this, was which gets me so fucking angry. The foundations that have done shitty things, they fucking ruin it on such a catastrophic level for everybody. Because people then start to question, I'm like, and I don't know what piece of shit just can go there, do these 501(c)(3)s, and a penny is going to the fucking vets, and they're all
I mean, the legal requirement is 2 cents on the dollar. Like if you submit your paperwork at the end of the year and you've spent 2 cents and used 98 cents for anything else, salaries, rent, or buying a building or any of this other shit, you still technically qualify as a 501(c)(3), which is wild to me.
That is crazy.
You would think it'd be way different than that.
Way different. And I know Hope for Warriors and Gary Sinise Foundation, I think it's like 94 or 95 cents goes to the vets, which is insane. And it's really like, I was talking to Tyler about this, it's like some of the people over the years we're talking to, it's so, the ones that really make a difference, how important those donation dollars are, because they don't have the money to keep the lights on, like they have the little amount that they do, but it's so important to donate to the right foundations that, and there's a lot of great foundations out there that I've worked with in the past that are great, and I can't name all of them, but the two that always just really stand out are, and there's one in Texas here that's good. Have you ever worked with the Boot Campaign? Oh yeah, Boot Campaign is awesome.
Yeah, Boot Campaign is great, and then Tom Spooner's organization here is really good as well.
Yeah, I've never worked personally with Tom, but I've heard great things.
Yeah, they do drug rehabilitation mostly for guys that are still active, actually, but there's.
Is it through like the ayahuasca type stuff, or?
I don't think they're doing plant medicine, but Marcus and Amber Capone are doing that a lot with vets, and they're doing.
What's that stuff called that you take? The
DMT?
Not the DMT, but the other one. It's like a.
Ibogaine.
Ibogaine.
Yeah, that one's brutal.
So the one is plant medicine. Ibogaine is what?
I don't actually know what Ibogaine is made of. Hold on, let's look it up.
So I heard a gentleman on Joe Rogan talking about Ibogaine.
Yeah, it's plants. It's found in the iboga plant, in addition to some other ones, and it is fucking brutal.
Yeah,
like that's not
you did it?
No. But I have friends who've done it who have also done other stuff, and they told me about it. So I smoke DMT recreationally.
You do?
Yeah.
Because you're just a wild man.
I am a wild man.
Are you like oiled up and fucking just in your boots?
Just like P. Diddy, dude. I'm sliding all over the house like risky business 24 hours a day. No,
what happens on DMT?
It's like looking through a kaleidoscope, kind of, but you're almost like it's so it's so intense that you just want to lie down and then your brain takes over. You know what I mean? So, you remember those little kaleidoscope things as a kid?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like, but it feels like a waterfall of energy rushing through your brain.
Are you seeing things and connecting with things?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. And it's like, I think the best way to describe what the practical effect of it is that whatever's on the front of your mind will come out, right? So intentionality matters there. And then it'll force you to ask and answer questions that you've been avoiding.
What is intentionality?
I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna think about some issues I'm having, and some possible resolutions for it. Then I'm gonna smoke this shit and see what happens, right?
Kinda and is it like a lucid dreaming where you can
a little bit, yeah, but you're fighting for your life. It's like being in a storm trying to stay on the fucking Zodiac boat, kind of, right? But the intense pressure of it kind of forces you to do some introspective thinking, I guess.
So, do you actually, like, what is it, regress, or like, what is it where you?
I don't know.
Like you go and find. Sorry, I keep hitting the mic.
No, that's fine.
When you go back to? Because I've read some stuff where people go, they're like a. It's like that movie that...
like an out-of-body experience, you mean?
Yeah, McConaughey did, where he's looking through the bookshelf at the end.
Oh, you mean Interstellar, yeah.
Awesome.
Transcendental meditation.
Yeah, the transcendental. Yeah, so you go in and you're seeing...
A little bit, yeah. Like, I've definitely felt myself in other places. One of the ways... It doesn't always happen for me, but one of the effects is it feels like somebody grabs you by the nape of the neck and just yanks you upward, and then you're looking down on yourself, but you're also seeing... in, I guess we would call it fourth dimensional sight, which is
and all this
seeing
stuff,
different
and this is like when you read about, like, if you like even like stuff with like the Egyptians, they talk about this sort of like the third eye and like this being like
the pineal gland.
So like this has been around for centuries and centuries and centuries. Has it always been for like the healing stuff, or like is that just sort of a new thing with plant medicine?
No, that's, I mean, so plant medicine's not a new thing.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
But for help, is it plant medicine always been used?
Yeah, so ayahuasca, psilocybin, ibogaine, I'm not entirely sure about the history of that, but psilocybin or mushrooms and ayahuasca have been used by native North and South Americans for as long as we have history, I think.
Yeah.
And then weed as well, but that was more like, that was either spirit quest or sometimes celebratory, like the peace pipe you smoke after a deal. That's weed. What's weed mixed with tobacco?
What's the one where you like lick the toad?
That's DMT.
Well, that's DMT.
Yeah, but you don't have to lick a toad. You can get a fucking vape pen now. It's 2025, brother.
Let's do it right now.
Yeah, we can. I've got some in my house. I'm not kidding. But yeah, it's highly effective. And what it does, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but maybe as a creative you are. The shower principle, where people have a lot of great ideas in the shower because they're distracted by manual tasks. They're not really thinking about anything.
Yeah.
Your brain is doing its thing in the background.
That makes sense.
And you're like, oh, shit, that's what I was thinking of 2 days ago, right?
Yeah, it's super clear.
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the practical effects of all of these plant medicines is to kind of dampen the prefrontal cortex so the rest of your brain is doing the work it needs to do. So this is super interesting. My buddy Kirk Parsley is a doctor, but he was a SEAL. I think he was on SEAL Team 3, if I'm not mistaken. He's a doctor now. One of his primary areas of focus is sleep, and you sleep in 4 phases. So there's the phase where you're just barely awake still, and then there's the light sleep after that, and then there's 2 layers of deep sleep. And the first layer of sleep, you're doing this, and the second layer of sleep, you're processing this. The third and fourth layers of sleep, you are processing the stuff that the information that you received during the day. Like your brain is creating new folds, basically, like micro, but new folds that are basically information centers. And then the fourth layer of sleep is where you process all the emotions you experienced that day. And we have research now, I think I think she was on the primary research for this, but Dr. Kate Pate, you ever
Yeah,
heard that name?
yeah.
So they found that if somebody gets into REM sleep, which is 3 and 4,
Yeah.
but especially 4,
Yeah.
the night of a traumatic event, whether it's war or rape, whatever, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. There's a 75% reduction in post-traumatic stress. And then if they get that same level of sleep, the second night after that, it's like a 90% reduction.
And is that because your body is addressing
Yes.
what it is?
Yeah.
You're confronting it, and
Yeah.
identifying what you went through.
It's processing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like...
so that's what the trauma then is, in a sense. Then you're stuck because you haven't.
Yeah, if you think of it like a physical object, it's like having a big chunk of something stuck in your dish and in your sink, and you just got to run the fucking thing so it'll crack it up and get it the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one of the practical effects of these plant medicines is it dampens the prefrontal cortex, and you're just feeling stimulus then, right? So your brain is forced to address these things. That's really the magic.
I saw I forget where it was that I saw it. It was a documentary, but they were doing a scan of a brain before and then on it, and the brain just fucking lit up with all whenever they had taken ayahuasca or whatever it was. And I think it was JFK was talking about it, something that because he's a big supporter.
Bobby.
Yeah, JFK, Bobby Kennedy. He seems to be really. Like what is the main pushback on it? What is it, because it actually makes people better?
Yeah, that's it. There's a saying in politics: solved problems don't get out the vote. So politicians never really want to solve anything; they just want to keep you on the hook, right?
Yeah.
And there's nowhere that's more clear than the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
They want you on pills your whole goddamn life.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. I mean, you're a customer, and if you think about it like a business, like you've got a business now, this T-shirt company.
Yeah.
You want people to keep buying them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's when it's T-shirts. Who cares, right?
Yeah,
But when you're like bartering with somebody's health, that's fucked up.
Yeah, it's the like just with even cancer, right? My wife worked in oncology and stem cell for years, and her big thing was they're in no rush to find a cure because the treatment is where they make the money. That's where people continue. I mean, look at and then you start to peel back the layers, and you're like, oh well, look at our food that we're eating. It's getting us sick, and then and everything is. And you'd probably know the number better than I do, but I think America we have more pills prescribed than all the other, like any other country in the world.
Yeah, by a like exponential factor, right?
Yeah, and like some of this shit is it's dietary stuff and exercise that will just get you back on thing. But again, I think a lot of what you said there, which is kind of is you're not dealing with what the fucking core issue is. You're numbing it. Like when I lost my father, which is one of the still it really wrecks me inside.
How long ago was this?
11 years. 12.
Yeah, and you guys were like best friends too.
He was like my dog. Like we just, he was. I was very lucky in my life to have a dad that I had, and it's not that I'm sad that I didn't get to like meet my kids, and I'm bummed out of that. But I'm very grateful that he died the way that he did, even though it was cancer. I got to spend the last day, like we knew it was coming, so it was we got to just talk about shit as opposed to someone that just goes and you just have that emptiness. But the relationship I have now with my father, which I'm really curious about this DMT stuff, like it took me probably a year or so after he passed away because I'd see him in dreams and I'd try and chase him down, or he just couldn't hear me yelling. And then one day I remember seeing him, it was at like a train station. I saw him like in a crowd, and I was running through, and finally he's like, "Hey son," and we had this like conversation. And then it like went away. Like I couldn't hold on to it. Like it kept moving. And then I was like, I kept wanting to go back. So going what you say with intention, I was like, I want to talk to my dad. And finally I've got it to the place now where if I want to go talk to him, I go to this bench, wherever this bench is in the universe, and I sit down, and my dad shows up, and
like
we have
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, it's at the top of this hill. And it's the same place. It's top. There's a tree to the right, and it's looking down at this valley, and there's just stuff happening. And I go up and I sit down, and he's either sitting there or he shows up. He'll even say, "Sorry, I'm late." You know?
Yeah. Are you familiar with shared consciousness at all? You ever understood this? How much time have you spent around, like when you guys were doing SEAL Team, did you have Dev Group guys come and run shoot houses with you and shit like that, or how'd that go?
Yeah, we had I did a lot with Tyler and Justin Melnick.
Yeah.
But no, we had a lot of guys that would come and run that with us.
Yeah. So if you watch elite level guys like that moving through a shoot house, you'll see. We'll first start with the fact that 95% of all communication is nonverbal, right? Which means two things. One, we are very good at noticing and interpreting body language.
Yeah.
As human beings, it's an evolutionary trait. The brain is a very complicated machine, but mostly what it does is determine between a threat and a benefit, right? So food, good. Tiger bad, right? I mean, that's reductive, but that's what it is. So when you see these guys moving through a shoot house, they won't say a word, but everybody knows what everybody else is doing. And some of it is experience, right?
Yeah.
But just like a football team, right?
Yeah.
Or like one of your buddies, not even in a sports environment or a combat environment, just somebody you know really well. Your wife, for example.
Yeah.
You can see there's a micro expression on her face, and you don't know it, but your brain knows that there's something wrong, and you go, hey baby, what's up? What's going on, right? And that's
or it's like, is that like when you like think of somebody and the phone rings?
Yeah.
Like that freaks me out because that happens all the fucking time.
And maybe we haven't really proven the science yet, but the science makes sense with something called quantum entanglement, right? Where quantum entanglement is this principle where if two atoms come into contact with one another, even subatomic particles, they can then communicate faster than the speed of light, no matter how far apart they are, right? Like you stimulate one and it happens immediately to the other without any time passing.
So is that then connected to another parallel universe?
Well, I mean, we think it might be interdimensional. So the idea of shared consciousness, or one of the ideas of that, and then collective consciousness, and then all the, I guess, additional things on the periphery of that, is that the self, like your person, whatever that is, it's not your body, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, so another biological principle is that for somebody like you that's in shape, eats well, and works out a lot, every 2.5 to 5 years, every cell in your body is different. Your brain, your eyes, your teeth, everything is different, right? So it's not that.
Foreskin? Does the foreskin change?
If it may grow back, yeah. It depends on what pact you made with God a couple thousand years ago. But yeah, everything is different, right? Your entire body is different.
Yeah.
So it can't be that. Your soul, people call it sometimes, maybe, right? Yeah. I think Orson Scott Card called it an iote in the what do you call it? The Ender's Game books.
Oh yeah.
But there's been a lot of different interpretations. I think the natives have a word for it, but essentially it is this fucking meat sack has borrowed some consciousness from the collective, right?
Whoa.
And it comes into your body and it lives out a life, and then it goes back and then does it again and does it again, right? That's something that a lot of these, I guess, if you want to call them woo scientists, are starting to test for, right? Because all of these interconnections we have with each other while we're alive, and then with ancestors recently and not recently deceased, and all the contact we have has to be explained somehow, right?
Well, I think it too is like there's some people that you meet, and it doesn't matter what you do, you can't seem to get on the sync. Like you can't sync. And then there's other people, it's effortless. You meet your friends, you pick up where you left off. There's no, it's just, you just have this familiarity and it makes sense. And you never question it. It's like, it's just like that person I know from somewhere, don't know what it is, but I don't question what they're saying ever. It's just the way it is.
We would call that resonance, right?
Resonance.
Think of it as like a vibration that's a language.
Yeah.
And you both speak the same language.
Yeah.
And that vibration.
Well, the vibration stuff, that goes back like the beginning of time, like with all the again, I'm obsessed with. I'm on this Egypt kick right now. I'm obsessed with aliens, right? Absolutely fucking. Since I saw ET, I am obsessed. And then when I wrapped on SEAL Team, they gave me my NVGs. Justin Malik did.
Oh wow! Well, he did. That dude is like. He should have been a supply guy in the Army. I've never seen anybody collect gear like that motherfucker, and for free too.
I would say this, and I will, Justin, because Justin gets his balls breaking a lot, and he takes it well, but he works harder than anybody I know. We would not have had the kits that we had on the show. If
I was gonna say he must have saved that show so much money,
dude. By
getting like fucking everything for free from these companies.
He did so much for the show, and because I listen. Hollywood is his own thing. They just don't have a clue how hard that is to do. They just like, hey, do this, and once you do it once, like, hey, do it again.
Well, he had that. God, you guys were filming in Romania or something, and he had some companies send old school shit
in
over
Budapest or in Serbia.
Serbia. Yeah, and he had stuff like within 24 hours or 72 hours or something.
And every time we land, there's a consulate person, there's generals showing up, and like in any country we're fucking at.
Wasn't it like? It was old school gear too, right?
Oh,
it wasn't stuff that was easy to get.
Yeah, no, he just has the most, and now he's got one of the big, like this amazing, business now of like all the stuff that he's collected over the years, which is great. So, but Malik's is just a stud, and somebody that I consider a dear friend. But going back to what you're saying is like with the consciousness and the vibration, like that, like you've seen those videos where they play they put sand on it and then it changed to different frequencies and stuff. But then you'll see in hieroglyphics like those actual patterns that they've painted of those same fucking whatever, like 5 point, like there's a healing one, there's this, and then they even say with like cancer cells too, if you go to a certain frequency, it'll destroy.
That's right. Yeah, it's called high energetic medicine. My buddy Ian Burlingame, who's a former Green Beret, actually works on that. We did a show about it that went out last Monday, I think. Actually,
really?
Yeah. It's very interesting, and it's like that high energetic medicine.
Yeah, can you
is like let me see if I can find my notes here. I don't want to speak out of turn.
Because that blew me away. That is. And that and because so many people just dismiss it like, oh, vibration, blah 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 blah. And I'm like,
well, I mean, but that's like all modern physics is about vibration.
It
like
is
string theory.
Like, I think how they moved the blocks in Egypt to build the pyramids, because when we still can't, I think they figured out some type of vibration that like, because if like, and the only reason I was thinking is because I was watching, I had my kids were had music on, we're having a dance party, and every time their truck vibrated on top of the thing, it like, and it was pretty heavy. It was like a remote control thing. It went up and went zzz, but it started moving, and I was like, oh man, that vibration. If they created some type of thing, maybe that was, again, I still think an alien came down and fucking did it. But
so this is what the physics researchers are finding. So let's talk just about cancer, right? Cancer is a deterioration of the cell, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And then when cells replicate, they replicate deteriorated and get worse and worse, and and then you die, right? So they have these frequency sound engines, like Hatch, right? You've heard, the thing, and it plays like a 432 megahertz, which is supposed to like calm your body and shit.
Yeah,
like that.
I'll listen to like a brown noise, which is a Hatch frequency.
Yeah. So the reason that it works is because of the way it interfaces with the cells in your body. It's like vibrating them at a certain rate, and the theory behind it. This is what Burlingame and some of his people are studying right now, photonics actually. That the cell. Maybe, and I'm paraphrasing, so forgive me if this sounds off if you're an expert in this, but the cell, just like everything else, vibrates at a certain level, and when it stops vibrating at the right level or vibrating at the level that the other cells around it are, then it becomes like its ability to function as it's supposed to goes away, right? So you just hit it with a tuning fork. Like hold it next to it, and it's like a singer. Like, oh, all right, I got my note now. I've got C now.
And now,
right, I'm locked in, and now the cell starts functioning properly again. That's the idea. And this is there's plenty of evidence that this works now.
Yeah,
right?
and there was one of the things I was saying is like when people do like going to like a fast and create autophagy, I think it's called.
Yeah,
Something like that, where they do like a 3-day fast, which is good, where you starve, and then they apply the vibration thing in there because that's where I guess your body's like it can really focus in on where these things are.
Yeah.
But there's just so much of this natural ability to heal yourself that we're just glancing over, and it's been there for thousands of years, but yet like obviously because it doesn't fucking cost a lot of money to do that, as opposed to nobody's making money on it, so there's no incentive.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and then I mean, you could. So you could imagine a future 5-10 years down the road where you could have a biophotonic device at your house. When you're not feeling well, you just turn it on a frequency and fucking sit there for a minute, right? And who's making money off that, right?
Yeah.
That's the fucking problem. But these, so it uses.
I think a sound bath.
Yeah, it's like a sound. It's kind of like a sound bath. So the way it describes it here is optical techniques to study biological materials, detect diseases, and develop new diagnostic and therapeutic methods. So
would they identify they'd know where the tumor is, and then they would...
You could with this, theoretically. So there's one called fluorescence microscopy, and it uses the emission of light
to
detect... red light to detect biological, like cellular and subcellular defects, basically, right? Which would be cancer, or a lot of different things.
And then they become zombie cells, right? Is that? And then you have to
I mean, they start to... Zombie cells, you could say, is metastasis, basically, right? For anybody that's dealt with cancer before. And then there's photon microscopy. There's spectroscopy, which is like something in the basis we use for, like, the reason we know what stars are made of is because every element burns at a different color. It's a wavelength, right? So it's long, short, fat, skinny, whatever the fuck. And then the way we discovered it through spectroscopy is to detect that light and then block out a certain color and see what else shows up. And whatever, like when you block out the color, you can see in the negative space where that color is, right? So you get a percentage of how much helium, hydrogen, et cetera, is in a star. That's being used to detect things as well. And there's photodynamic therapy, which is light therapy, right? That's red light therapy, which, by the way, you can do on your own.
I got
if you
one.
wake up in the morning, not even with a device, by the way. Those devices, if you get a good device,
I got like a micro LED or something like that it's called, but it's like yay wide, and it's got a bunch of other lights that you actually can't see that are there, and it goes past your dermis or whatever it's called. But no joke, like my wife and like my kid, when they were sick, we put on the red light at night to try to help.
Oh yeah,
and I'm telling you, that stuff is like, it's legit.
It definitely works. I mean, there's plenty of scientific evidence for this now, and you can some of it you can do without any kind of device. Go outside during sunup for 20 minutes. Yeah. And that red light that's coming over the horizon, that fucking heals a lot of stuff that's wrong with you. It also helps to regulate your limbic system and your circadian rhythm and shit like that. And then the same thing at dusk. If you watch the sun go down, you get more of that.
What's your
red light.
Circadian rhythm again? What is that? Your heart.
Well, it's like the 24-hour period. There's a bunch of stuff involved in it. So circadian rhythm is like the 24-hour rhythm that we are on, connected to this planet, because it's a 24-hour day here.
Got it. Yeah.
So circadian is the full day rhythm, but it includes the way your heart functions, the way you sleep, the way you digest, your gut health, all that stuff, the way you produce hormones and everything.
Yeah. So if your circadian rhythm is off, then you're opening yourself up to all sorts of...
It fucks everything up, right? Yeah. Because think about your body as a factory floor, right? Yeah. And everything gets done in a certain order. Well, now you got to realize that 95% or more, depending on which one we're talking about, of all the hormones in your body are created in your gut, right?
Yeah.
So oxytocin, the one that lets you love people.
Yeah, that's where I got gut feeling. It's like that saying, it came from that everything starts in your gut.
Yeah. So gut health is probably the most important part of health that we just don't pay any attention to.
Doesn't your gut form first before your...
Yeah,
that's like...
It's like made of... That's why it's so absorbent, right? Well, it's because it's made of that tissue, but everything gets done down there. And if you're... There's second and third order effects. So if you're not on schedule with this stuff, then the things that are supposed to get done don't get done correctly, which means you're not producing the right hormones, which is either testosterone or whatever else, right?
Yeah.
Which is a huge problem for people these days. And then, one of the results of that is that your body doesn't know when it's time to go to sleep, especially with all this blue light in your face instead of red light.
Yeah.
And your body doesn't produce the magnesium and the melatonin it takes to make you fall asleep.
Dude, magnesium, I'd say in the last year really started implementing magnesium into my thing. And first of all, if you're taking magnesium, make sure you're taking the right one. Don't take too much because you'll fucking shit your pants. I shit my pants. Like, I literally, no joke, and this is a true story. I took some magnesium. I was like, all right, I've got my thing. I listened to like Uberman or something like that. And I took this stuff and I was driving my kids to drop them off at school. And I shit my pants in the car. I thought it was a fart, dude. I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, you guys got to get out here. He's like, just go inside. I was like, so don't take whatever magnesium I took. It was the one that if I took, first of all, I took too much of it. It was a scoop. I was like, and it was just, it was so, I remember calling my wife. I'm like, I just literally shit myself dropping the kids off. It was not good. But because you can do the magnesium, and then it's another thing called, it starts with an A, but you partner that at nighttime, and it really helps with sleep, and something else. But and then there's another magnesium you take for like when you're working out, like you can partner it with. I have them all, but I'm terrible at remembering what names, but I just have like AM, PM for the thing. But that's such an amazing. Magnesium is something that we haven't. And the other thing too is like on the nootropic side, creatine. Creatine and nicotine are two things I didn't realize that are
actually good for you.
Yeah. Like I always just pictured creatine as, just when you were like in high school and all the gym, the football guys would take it and they get all puffy and be like, I'm in my loading stage, it's gain season, like that's always what I think. But then my mom, she's got Parkinson's, and I've been really like focusing on her, just like trying to up like her mineral, like make sure she gets like, so we're doing like Irish sea moss, but I started giving her creatine, and I got to tell you, the difference I can see in her when we take creatine. And there's that other guy, who's that guy that he's like, it's very bizarre, but God bless him. The guy that's like reversing his age.
Oh,
Brian Johnson. Yeah, fascinating. I mean, the stuff that he's done on it, it's like he looks like the guy from Twilight.
Yeah, he looks like he looks like a snake that just shed his skin.
Yeah, but his like, and even my wife, who's in dermatology now, like his skin is insane, and the laser treatments and the stuff that he's doing. I mean, when you obviously have that type of money and that type of time, but what he's done, he has this one scoop thing where you pour it and it's like instead of taking 21 vitamins, because I'll know like if I take that many vitamins and I don't have the right amount of food, I'm gonna feel nauseous and my day's ruined. Yeah. But he has this one scoop you put in that's great. So I've been giving my mom that and then a scoop of creatine, and I have seen a massive difference in her ability to
Blueprint.
Yeah, Blueprint.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Blueprint. Yeah. There's a thing called Longevity, the powder. I take it every single day. It's in my car, and it is the best way to start. I do that with I'll do that. I'll do a little bit of baking soda and Celtic sea salt in my drink every morning.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, so the basic function of creatine is ATP regeneration, right? That is ATP is some word I can't pronounce, adenosine triphosphate or something like that, I think. Yeah. Adenosine triphosphate, maybe.
I've heard the term ATP. I've never.
I know ATP.
Yeah.
It's something phosphate. But what it does is, so, ketones are energy for the brain. That's what your brain uses for 100%. Energy. ATP is what cells use for energy, essentially, right?
Oh, okay, got it.
So whatever you eat, and then it converts into that, it siphons off a little ATP that energizes your cells. So cellular reproduction we talked about before, think of it like a stamp that eventually runs out of ink, you know what I mean? So it gets a worse and worse copy over time.
Yeah.
But in this case, instead of just being not quite so bright on the paper, it gets oblong and oddly shaped, and that's what a cancer cell looks like. It doesn't look like a normal cell, right? So creatine gives you more ATP in your body to make sure that your cells are replicating faster and more correctly, right?
Oh, wow.
Which is, I mean, that's basic. That's basic.
And then what the NAD is
NAD plus,
because that's part of the cellular thing too, right?
Yeah.
That's what's in your cell. What is that? NAD?
I will never. It's nicotinamide mydamide or some shit. Dinucleotide.
That's a word I would have had on CSI.
There's no way. Yeah, you should.
I should know
this. Should be yours.
Yeah.
So it's an electron carrier.
Yeah.
For cells, right? That's what NAD does. Mm-hmm. So think of ATP as
the truck.
No. Think of NAD as the truck.
NAD is the truck.
ATP is the fuel.
Is the fuel,
basically, right? So you definitely need both of those in your body. And look,
have you tried the bags of NAD? Have you done it yet?
I just take straight injections.
You just do the straight injections?
Yeah, right into my belly fat.
Is it like? Because I did the IV and it was incredibly uncomfortable for like 4 hours.
Really?
Actually, and I did, and then I did this at this one place. I did NAD and they did it with ketamine. They give you a ketamine shot, which was
I've never done that at the same time
because then you have no pain on the thing because you're off in. It was actually that ketamine thing that I did it twice, and that was I went somewhere else for sure. And then when they woke me up, like 3 hours had passed, and I was like, "Where?"
I got to tell you, I've done a lot of psychotropic drugs over the years. I've never tripped harder than I did on ketamine.
Yeah, I felt
dope. I felt like full on out of body experience.
Yeah, I went into the chair and then I was up in the stars, but things were going like this, like it would go as if like you remember when you would go to the library and you could scan things like old.
The microfiche.
Yeah, microfiche. So it was like that. We go, and then it would stop, and I'd be like, "Whoa!" And then I'd go into that, and then it'd go. And I kept pointing like Peter Pan to fly over here and fly over here, and then all of a sudden I woke up and it was like I was like, "What time is it?" It was like 3 hours later. I was like, "Man."
Yeah, I've done acid 700 or 800 times probably.
What?
Yeah.
800 times?
Yeah, I started doing acid when I was 11 years old.
How?
What do you mean how?
Like, I mean, were you making it or just?
Oh no. Why? Eventually, yeah. But no, at first I was just getting it from friends of my brother. He was a bit older than me.
Yeah.
But I read an Israeli medical journal from the 1950s where they were using LSD to treat autism, and I had some social problems.
Yeah.
Just like I just didn't get it. I didn't understand why people even cared about being social. I just wanted to fucking learn shit.
Yeah.
But I did realize this is going to be.
So have you always been like high functioning, like just like reading?
Yeah. So I started taking this shit. I was reading, and then I started taking it and reading the encyclopedia and shit like that. I did all sorts of weird stuff.
So for you, did it just slow the world down a little bit more?
A little bit, yeah. That's essentially what it did, yeah. Like it slowed the world down it slowed the world down, but it didn't slow my brain down. So I could see the world moving at normal speed, but my brain was still seeing at quite a bit higher speed. But now I have the ability to contextualize what's happening.
Wasn't there a government program where they introduced like?
Well, yeah, MK Ultra, but they were doing it without telling people.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah.
He was at Harvard when he was 16, and they dosed him up for 2 years, and then he went on to do what he did. Right?
And MK Ultra was the study of mind control?
Yeah, they were trying to control. They wanted to see if they could dose somebody up enough and then suggest things to them and make them do stuff that they wanted to do.
I heard something that their theory was our cell phones are part of an MK Ultra type.
Maybe. I mean, the energy. So we're batteries, right?
Yeah.
I mean, every
I
part
100% believe that.
Yeah.
I more than anything, I really believe. I put a grounding mat in my bed, and I can tell if it's been unplugged or not because I will lay down on that bed and within 2 minutes I'm gone. It really. And then I put it under my mom's bed. She's got fibromyalgia as well, and that instantly her back started feeling better. But that just like keeps your ground up, like, or if you go like out in the morning onto the ground and like we're not supposed to wear shoes.
Yeah,
we're not supposed to. These boots are cool. You're not supposed to wear these things.
Yeah.
So I totally like us as batteries is a great way to.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. And then there's a lot of people. I guess it depends on how sensitive, because not everybody is equally sensitive to this stuff. But some people shouldn't even have their phone in the room when they sleep.
Yeah,
it should be in a separate room. I don't have that particular problem. I've gone through that process, but there's certainly people who shouldn't even have the phone in the room.
I have my phone in this case.
A Faraday case?
No, it's not a Faraday case, but it's I have a Faraday case, but it's got this radiation blocker on it, and then I have this other thing. It's like a little like I feel like Ben Greenfield. I have it. It was like it blocks like other thing. I don't know, some sort of
EMP,
some,
EF,
EMF. Yeah, it blocks that sort of thing. And I can definitely, if I take it out and have it in, I can feel the sort of thing. But it's like, it freaks me out with my kids though, because we're really strict at our house. Our kids have 45 minutes a week. That's it. If they want to do it one day, they want to do it, spread it out over things, but that's it. Because it just, like, the times that we've allowed them to go further, they turn into little, like...
dicks.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not them.
Yeah.
They're like, holy short chicken. I remember when I was a kid, because just, like, video games to me, I was like, it was like crack. I was like, no. And then if I lost or something, it was, like, full-on, like rage that I'd never had before.
Yeah.
Like, and it just... And even when we're winding down at night, like the times that if we have a movie night or something with the kids, if they watched something late and they don't have a good, the whole next day is completely ruined. So it's like turning off the TV, winding down, getting them to have a book, like lowering the light, having like some type of, getting rid of that.
And the temperature, by the way.
Dude.
Like if you rock your temperature during the day in your house at 72, you need to put it down to 68 to 70 when you go to sleep.
It drives my wife. I sleep I like an ice box.
Yeah. Well, that's what your body wants. Yeah. To be fair to her.
Yeah.
Right? She just needs to fucking be the little spoon. That's all. It's like
I get so hot. I'm like a hot sleeper. Like I will literally have no sheets. I'll have a pillow.
That's your body like body and brain repairing itself.
Oh, really?
That's what's happening. Yeah. So you get thermogenic at night.
And is it?
So all your fascial tissue that's been broken down and shit, your body's repairing it. White blood cells are repairing it at night. That's why your body temperature goes up. Same thing with your brain. Your brain will get hot, and most of the heat in your body escapes through your extremities, like particularly your head. Yeah. But if your head is busy processing all night long, then think of it like putting your hand on your computer battery. Yeah, it's hot. But if it's hot up here too, then there's no heat dissipation, so your body's going to get hot.
Have you got into cold plunging at all?
Yeah, I do it now and then. Yeah. Mostly what I do is I take a shower in the morning, and then when I'm done showering, I fucking switch it to the coldest possible thing and just sit there for about a minute or so.
Yeah, cold shower for me has been like a game changer. I put a cold plunge downstairs. Like if you saw my basement, I've turned it into a little biohacking thing. Like I put a hyperbaric chamber in. I put this other thing. It's called an EWAT machine. It's actually a company out of Texas, 1,000 roads. You know what EWAT machine is? Exercise with oxygen therapy.
Oh, like a hyperbaric chamber?
No, the hyperbaric chamber is separate. But this is like I have my Peloton, and then I have this big bag of oxygen, and you put the mask on like Lance Armstrong, and you pedal, and I'll do as fast as I can at maximum effort for 15 seconds, the rest for 45, and I'll do 10 minutes of that, and I'll do it post-workout when I come home. I'm telling you, it's a game changer. And
that sounds like Tabata. You know Tabata.
Yeah, it's a Tabata thing, but doing Tabata,
but you're just doing it with oxygen
on it, and you're saturating your body with so much oxygen that you're the stuff that I've read is that disease and stuff can't exist in oxygen, like cancer or any sort of stuff can't exist in stuff. Instead of like with the hyperbaric chamber, I'll do that like 3 or 4 times a week, but that's been helping. We've got some friends of ours that come over, they get inside it. You're in there for an hour, but the thing with hyperbaric chambers, if you do consistently, is where you really see the difference. But it's like the only thing that's, if you don't like tight spaces, once you get to the pressure you have to be at in the hyperbaric chamber, even if you freak out and you say you want to get out, you can't let them out. Like you have to decompress. Yeah, it takes like fucking 5 minutes. Yeah. And it also too, you can't like have your cell phone in there.
You did an episode about this one time actually, where you were stuck in that fucking tube.
The tube, yeah. That
sucked.
That was.
Like you actually had to do that, didn't you?
So that was like season 2 or 3. Mark Simos wrote that episode, and I remember working with. Do you know Goldie? Garrett Golden. Big dude.
That sounds familiar.
Great dude.
What would I know him from?
He was team guy. He worked on our show. Just a big.
Wait, what was his name on the show?
He never. Well, he was more background, I think, but he was one of our tech advisors.
Okay, yeah.
Really like awesome, dude.
That sounds
he said this one, it was one of my favorite lines he ever said. He goes, my driveway doesn't go all the way down to the street. I was like, the best line ever. But he helped me a lot on that. And but so I remember when we were shooting the episode, Chris Julak's like, do you want, who's the director? He's like, do you want warm water in there or you want like cold water? And I was like, at first I was like, no, I don't want warm water. I want to suffer a bit. But not knowing I had 3 days of 12 hours a day in this.
Oh shit! It took that long to shoot.
Oh yeah, because it was super technical.
Yeah,
we had to. They built an actual thing. Then they'd fill it up here. We'd do all the stuff. Then they'd have to fill it up to here, and then fill. So each day was a different level. And there's a part in that episode where I'm freaking out, going, "Get me out of here! Get me out!" That was real. Like what happened was out of instinct, I grabbed the dragger to inhale. Because the water was coming up, and I just went down, and I fucking choked on the water. And then I forgot what our word was, because there was a latch at the end. I'm in an actual tube, and there was rope basically attached to the bottom of my leg. And when I needed to come, then when I needed to bust a nut, when I
just yank you out.
Yeah, they'd pull me out, and then, or if anything bad happened, they'd stick little scuba thing through the of this little hole. And whatever happened, my dragger, and then I had my gun, they pulled, but it jammed. And so I'd taken this air in, and it was only like, when I watch it back, it was only like 2 or 3 seconds, but instantly I went into freak out mode, like I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And so that scene where I'm going, get me out of here, that was me really freaking.
That's crazy. You know, how it felt like longer than 2 or 3 seconds? That happens because your brain intentionally slows down everything around you so that you can react better to things, right? I'm sure you've heard of athletes being in the zone and shit like that.
That's what that is. Flow state?
Yeah, it's a flow state. That's what happens. And
Except I didn't feel like I was flowing. I felt like
that's because you weren't familiar with it, right?
Oh.
You were panicking. But this is what makes
special operators great.
Yeah, it's what makes gunfighters good at what they do.
Did it slow down for you?
Yeah, all this stuff is happening around you, and it's like it looks like you're fucking slow, and it's like your body's moving at normal speed, but you can see things. Like I'm charging forward, and there's a car coming this way, and I fucking see it.
Yeah.
And not only do I see it, but I'm like, there's a car coming. Is that a threat? Right? Do I need to look?
And you're having all these.
Yeah, all this happens.
What was it like the first time for you when you recognized that you were in control of? You slowed it down for the first time.
I had no idea what the fuck was happening. It was in a goddamn. There were a couple of instances leading up to where I got kind of good at what it was. One, we're on a patrol, and this is the one that
how
really...
How old are you at this time?
24, maybe.
Oh, wow. So
just a pup. So one was... the one I remember the most was me and some other dudes were walking down this alleyway, and it came to a T intersection. And as soon as we crested and there's daylight right there, we all hear a sniper shot, and everybody just turtles their head a little bit, and it cracks over your head, which means it's right over your head, right? And we're all just like, fuck, and we start moving backwards. But it all like, I heard that crack, and then my brain just like, it felt like a wave of energy hit the front of my face, and I just started seeing all this shit around. It's just instinct. Like we think we're really smart, right? And we are in some ways. We've split the atom. Good for us. But our bodies are still cavemen, right? So all of this lower level stuff that we do, the red light stuff, the oxygen therapy, stimulating or supplementing with things like magnesium and shit like that we need, putting our bare feet on the ground, all this stuff is what people did 30,000 years ago, right? And it worked. Your body did that for a very long time, for thousands and thousands of years.
And they didn't have cancer, and they
didn't have any of this shit.
Any of this stuff.
There's got to be a balance between, all the technology and all the stuff that we have, and realizing that we should be using that to figure out how it was before, instead of trying to this whole, Elon putting a chip in somebody's head and letting a paralyzed person walk again. Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Next level.
But I don't need a chip in my head. You know what I mean?
No.
I'm just not interested in that kind of thing. So,
because I believe, I totally agree with you on that, because I mean, I don't know what the exact numbers, but isn't it true? Like we don't even know how to access all of our brain. right? Like turn it all on. And I think that goes into the flow state. All of a sudden you are like, you hit it and you're like, you didn't think about it, but a part of your brain is like, okay, I'm going to take over now and we're going to get through this. But can you turn that on like that?
I think it's the stimulus. Like some people, if you work at that,
yeah, you
could probably figure out a way to switch it off and on. But manually, but usually for me, it's been the stimulus. Like if I even today, not today specifically, but these days, out in public, I hear a loud bang or something, and shit slows down. I'm like, where's that? And I see it, register it, and
are you talking to your? Yeah. So you have a phone conversation of, and would that be considered like your fight or flight? Like,
I mean, yeah, it's the amygdala is what creates the reaction.
What is it called?
Amygdala, right? Amygdala. That's your fight or flight, fear center, all that stuff. Yeah. But then it gets transferred to other parts of your brain for processing, right? It just happens to, and this is
happening in milliseconds.
Yeah, but this is like anybody can. Not anybody, but most people can figure out ways to do this. It's just like exposure therapy. You get used to it. Your brain creates shortcuts to be able to do that, right? Like the reason you smell something that you smelled 1,000 times, you immediately know exactly what it is. And not only that, but you have a dozen memories.
It brings you back. There's certain things I'll remember. Like there's a certain smell, and I can't exactly, but whatever it is, it takes me back to my granny's house in Ireland. It's a very specific smell of campfire. Like it's not the campfire, but it's the morning after of like the coal and like when it's like. When you wake up and you're camping, but there's a certain smell, like when you wake up in the morning, it's like that's in your thing. That takes like very distinct memories of when I would, where I was, what I do. And it's like Christmas time, because me and my dad that was our jam. My dad was Clark and decorated the house like crazy. So I've taken on that tradition. I need a real tree. I need that tree. Like the fake trees and stuff are good. This was the only year that we didn't have a real tree just because schedule wise. But I will stop and like go up to like when we get to go pick out the tree. I look like a complete weirdo. I go up and I like just go up and I just like put my nose around this thing, and it takes me back to my childhood. It instantly goes, and that for whatever minute or so that I'm like breathing this in it, like it's such a peaceful place it takes me to. But I can see how then on the other side where it could be the opposite.
Sure,
like somebody that has some PTSD or some type of burnt smell or something.
Cordite.
Yeah,
I can see that. Yeah.
Is there a smell for you that brings you back?
For war?
Yeah.
Cordite. I mean, honestly, yeah. It's
what
not.
What does that smell like exactly?
I mean, it's like gunpowder, basically, right? It just.
But is there a difference between like shooting at the range or shooting in combat? Like, is there a different smell?
I mean, most of my experience was all of my combat experiences in Iraq, and everywhere smells like shit there. So I'm sure if I just took a shit on the ground and then started shooting my gun in the air, it would bring me right back. To be honest. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely moments where my body senses that stuff, and I think it's important to pay attention to it. Not that every instinct you have is correct, but the fact that you have instincts is correct, right? So it's not smart to dismiss it.
Like, why do animals fly before something happens? They know, like their contact, they're in touch with something just before. Have you ever been around with an earthquake has happened?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, and I lived in Oakland for a pretty good while.
For me, always it was like 2 seconds before. I would say even more. The times I've been in LA for the earthquake, my dog or an animal that was there would like get up and start looking around.
I mean, they can sense when you're going to have a seizure.
Yeah, I've seen those videos, so they go and help.
Because like the electricity in your body starts to rise.
Goes back to the electric.
Right? But you know, it's funny. We have human beings have never successfully predicted an earthquake ever, not once.
Really?
Yeah.
Even Nostradamus?
But animals all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you ever hear like the air pressure changes? You feel the actual. I can like just before I'll know it. Just before it happened, you hear like you'll feel like this like. It's like a You just feel this and that would.
That's why your ears pop when you drive up through the mountains, actually, because of the pressure, right? But you can definitely sense that stuff, and our brains are extremely sensitive to it. So a 155 round that goes off within a mile of your location can cause many concussion, right?
Really?
Because of the way it disturbs the air. Yeah. So our brains are very sensitive.
If we're the battery, then what is breath?
One of the chemicals, like a battery is a chemical reaction.
Yeah.
It's creating electricity, right?
Yeah.
So I would assume it's one of the.
Because I started trying to do this Wim Hof thing, which is, I don't know if you ever tried. It's really hard.
No, I have not done that. No.
It's like breath work where you breathe in through your nose and out.
No, I've never done that.
And you do it for like 30 seconds a minute. Like, dude, you get like.
Yeah, you can get high.
Oh yeah, it's
crazy. Yeah,
it is really hard to do. Like at first, like how hard can this be? But to like breathe in and breathe out and breathe in and breathe out, and then just like even if you go cold plunge, then just like be able to be in control of your breath and focusing on your breath. I saw like Joe Rogan doing it, where like he'll really focus on his breath so that the cold and stuff. He's always almost like in a meditative state already getting into it.
Yeah.
But then you see like Wim Hof and stuff. He's hiking up mountains in like his fucking sandals and shorts. Yeah. That guy's a savage.
He is, yeah.
Have you ever met him?
No, I've not, but he's
you got to do something with him, man.
We should, yeah. He's a lunatic.
He's so crazy.
I'm into it. I like lunatics.
You got it's like he's on to something, but some of the studies, some of his work is printed in the Lancet now, like of like what he's actually come up with for whatever. What's that nerve that goes from your vagus?
Vagus nerve.
So when you go under the water, what it does, and when with your cortisol.
It's the one in the back of your neck.
Yeah. So when you go under, that's why people say when they take a cold plunge, they don't put their head under. If your body's freaking out because your head's hot, and then your body so it doesn't know. But if you go under, it lets you get calm a lot quicker. But what he's done with that, with the shock proteins and all it does for the body, it's pretty unbelievable. But if you think about like breath, right? And then, Yahweh, right, which is breath
of life.
Breath of life. Yeah. It's like this shit's been around for fucking forever.
Yeah, I mean we've used a bunch of different words to describe it. I mean even the word, like the word for death in ancient Hebrew literally means the absence of God. It doesn't mean death, right?
Yeah.
So the way they conceptualize
death is absence of like your
separation from God.
Oh, the separation because you're.
So they were trying to describe what it would feel like basically to be separate from the group, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is that's happening here. We don't fucking know really. But
what do you believe?
I don't believe shit, dude.
No?
I don't believe nothing. I have no idea. I'm open. I believe
with DMT, because DMT is a chemical that when we die, that's what was released.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we go towards a light, which is fun. Like so all the things that we said, like we go towards a light. There's breath, like light therapy, like whatever.
I think religions are all describing a very similar
whatever it
universe.
Is.
Like I don't know what it is or what's causing it. It wouldn't shock me to find out there was some kind of higher level of consciousness or prime mover or anything like that. I have no reason to believe specifically in any particular God.
I think religion is a very personal journey because after my dad died, I grew up Irish Catholic, and I walked away from it, and it's only in the last year I've gotten really back into going to church.
Yeah. Well, it's a civilization thing, right? So we all drink water. We do it different ways. We all eat calories. We do it different ways, right? And we all interface with God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, in different ways. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like it shouldn't be a reason to argue with people.
That's what I'm like. Look, there's only upside for you if it's making you better,
right?
And if it's making you look introspective, like for me. As of late, I found this amazing church, Seacoast, in South Carolina, and I wanted to go to church with my kids and have that experience with them and just open them to something. But this community that is there, it's not because there's so much where I just feel like while I'm there on that Sunday, I think about all the things I got ahead and how I'm going to like apply it with a better perspective, or you go back to the intention. It's such a great way to look at I'm going to use that. Like, do you do that like the beginning of every week? Like,
I do it every day.
Every day. So is it like?
I do it every day, and like with my
to find the good in the day type thing.
Well, I mean to find purpose. So one of my favorite quotes of my own, which is kind of not. I don't think you're supposed to say that, but is inhale rage, exhale purpose. Right. So, and it isn't just rage, it's all the
yin and the yang,
all the negative emotions that you might feel during the day, stress, anxiety, rage, discomfort, fear, sadness, whatever, and let that motivate you to be better. Right. So
inhale, rage, exhale.
I like the idea of yin yang because there is a dichotomy to life. And the way I've always described it is that you have in every facet of life, from philosophy to the physical world, you have this concept of push-pull, right? Even when we work out, we think about
It's
this
the
stuff.
best, yeah.
So,
Plyometrics.
When I think of push, I put my fear and anxiety and anger behind me and let it motivate me and push me forward, and I put my hope in front of me. Like what I fear is letting down my family and my men.
That's my biggest fear.
And what I hope for is to give them a better life. So I put that in front of me.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Same.
So you're being chased by stuff, and then you're chasing stuff.
So
and that's
do
kind of the
you
cycle.
allocate time in the morning to start your day?
I mean, I don't. Yeah, I do. I sit in bed and think about it.
Yeah.
And I've got so right in front of I sleep on the right side of the bed, and on my dresser right in front of me.
Is a picture
Yeah. Well, there actually might be now. I don't know. I have to check. There's a sign that I had made, and it says it's not about you, right? And that's the first thing I see every morning when I wake up.
Yeah.
And when my body hurts or I'm sleepy and I don't feel like getting up or anything, I'm like, all right, cool. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Get up. You know what I mean? There's shit to be done. And I feel like when you go through that process intentionally, your body will produce the correct hormones.
Did you have to
take care of you
master
through the
that
day.
discipline of learning how to because it's so easy to procrastinate and like I'm not, I'll do it in 5 minutes. So to be like, no, once I see that, I gotta go. Like I made that promise to myself I gotta be selfless.
Yeah.
And get up.
It's definitely a functional thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing about life is, and this is true for everybody, the more you do the wrong thing, the easier it gets, and the more you do the right thing, the easier it gets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like some people say it never gets easier to do the right thing. That's bullshit.
I agree.
Like I've got all sorts of great habits. I've got some dumb ones too, probably, but I've got great habits that keep me in fucking focus. And I get feedback from other people, like, hey, you're very intentional about what you're doing. I'm like, yeah, I did that on purpose. That's what intentionality is, and you could do it too. There's nothing stopping you from doing that.
You just gave me goosebumps. So intentionality with purpose is we would say is the most effective way to
because that's how so before we had this upper mammalian brain that made us look at the mirror at ourselves and be like, hey, what about me? What about me? We were fucking just engines with instincts, and that was it, right?
Yeah.
If you can like look at yourself in the mirror, think about who you want to be, and then go back down to the lower level mammalian and the reptilian brain and say, I'm going to fucking do these functional things to make this outcome happen, then you can live a pretty good life.
What is the name of the guy, the psychologist Jordan
Peterson?
Yeah, he trips me out. He goes on some tangents, but for me, for some of his stuff, I gotta like keep revisiting it because I'm like, what does he mean by that? But he said one thing of like, if you sit alone and really ask yourself what the problem, like what is, what it is, but you gotta like confront that. You gotta understand and face that nothing's gonna fucking change.
No, it's the bystander effect, right?
What's that?
So there was this woman, I think her name was Kitty Genovese, and she got stabbed to death in New York City back in the day, I think in the 50s, and everybody just stood around and watched her, and it inspired these psychologists to do a study on the relationship between how many people are in a crowd and what the likelihood of somebody actually helping somebody that needed it was. And the more people there are, the less likely it is that anybody will help them until somebody actually steps in and helps them, and then everybody will step in. Right?
Dude, there was a teacher at a university. He said, I'm going to do something, and if you don't stay in your chair, you're going to fail this. And he had to put a fish in the middle of it was a goldfish in a bowl, and he took it out and he put it on the table, and it's just flopping around, and people just sat there and watched until one person got up and put it in the thing, and then he walked back in the room, and he's like, that person just passed, and he goes back to tell that story of just stay there because one, people freeze, but two, like they're worried about how it may, as opposed to just doing the fucking right thing and being selfless in that thing, to process in those, and you've obviously gone through it a lot more than I have, but to process in those moments of where you have to rise above and not have, because I'm sure when you were in a gunfight, you weren't thinking like, oh man, I don't want to open this door because I want to make it home. You're worried about the guys you're with.
That shit,
So, but it's that instant sort of I'm thinking. So, are you writing stuff down, or is it just all?
I'll take notes every now and again, but mostly I remember everything.
I remember my buddy Artie Baxter. He's one of my best friends. He's godfather to Artie Baxter and Sarah Baxter. They're the godparents to my twins. And I was going through a really tough time, and he came up to me and he was like, "Dude, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm going to talk to you. You know, you might not want to hear what I'm going to say." And I was like, he's like, "You know, the AJ I know is a pretty positive guy, and you've turned into this like really negative person. Like it's hard to be around you sometimes." He's like, "And I get it. Your dad died. I get it." He's like, "Did you die that day too? Like, did you, like, where's AJ gone?" And he was like, "I'm reading this book right now, and I want you to he's like, just fucking," I'm in tears, and I'm like, you know, he's like, "But he's like, I need AJ back." And he's like, "I want you to just, for the next month, just promise me you do this for 30 days. Wake up, and before you fucking start saying how everything sucks, everything you see, be like, I'm grateful for my socks. I'm grateful for that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful for the grass." And just start fucking saying that. He goes, "I promise you, dude, the light's going to come back in your life." And you know, I was like, "Okay, I promise." So I said, I promise I'll do it. By like the third or fourth day, fucking shit was getting, like, I was driving in my car, I'm like, "I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you." But it was like, instead of, and what I had to do too, I had to turn off the programming I was listening to in the morning and listen to more like motivational podcasts or some type of like positive mindset.
I mean, it matters what you listen to before you go to sleep too.
It does, yeah. It really, like, because I'll get wrapped up in politics and stuff like that, and if I get too much down the wormhole, I'm carrying this fucking weight.
Yeah, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with carrying weight, but when you're carrying the weight of what you have to do tomorrow or what your kids are going through, there's something you can do about that. But if you're carrying the weight of some bullshit that has nothing to do with you, what are you going to do with that? You know what I mean? You can't even put it down sometimes. It's crazy. So, you know, intentionality matters.
And I feel like a lot of people too with this politics nowadays, they're carrying already the weight of their life. They're carrying then what information they've downloaded. So by the time that someone disagrees with them or they're ready to pop off because they're so that they're not relieving any pressure on the kettle.
Yeah. And why are you even emotionally invested in any of this?
Yeah.
In the fucking first place.
You know, and look, I'm at fault. I'll get fired up over shit.
Yeah, same.
So it's based on fear that I'm like, I'll have this conversation. I'm like, I've worked my ass off. I want to live a good life with my kids and my wife and enjoy this. And I feel like it's getting fucked up. But what I've realized too, when I step back, there's more in common with people that I disagree with politically than not. Like 99% more in common. It's that tiny little 1% that we're just fucking, it's driven home that we are supposed to disagree on so many things.
Yeah.
And that it's crazy, that one little percent that fucking consumes the hell out of you, where people are, like, I've lost friends over this shit.
Well, you've got to be deeply suspicious of the precipitator of that, the media, politicians. Anybody that's trying to divide you is trying to conquer you. That's how the saying goes.
Does that go back to that one thing we were talking, the mind control thing?
MK Ultra.
Yeah, is that?
I mean, this has been going on long before that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like I'm sure all governments, but Soviets for sure have been dealing with this stuff for a long time. But it's you know,
I mean, there was that the Soviet guy that said how to tear down America. He's like, you know, get in within, like
Yuri Asmanov, something like that.
Dude, I listened to one of his speeches and I was like, oh my God, that's what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. And then, you know, about intentionality specifically, my lady actually said, we were talking about this morning, as a matter of fact, you, to some degree, you can create your own reality. And I don't mean like, when people say manifesting, that's an off-ramp with no street to go onto. It's just a platitude, right? So I think it's important.
What does platitude mean?
It's like just a saying that it's like support the troops, but you don't actually do anything.
Oh,
right?
got it. Yeah. There's you're not actually physically
right.
You're just hashtagging.
Yeah. So what does it mean exactly to do any of this shit? When we say you create reality, most people, this is what she said, most people jump to luck or new beginnings, but it's also a reminder to manage your thoughts, right? Because you're in control of what you think. And as a matter of fact, in life, you're not in control of that much. Circumstances, most of life, you can control your attitude and your effort, and that's it, right? And a part of effort is controlling what you think on a daily basis. And we have this idea that the mind controls the body, and a lot of people get heady with this intentionality stuff or the manifesting stuff, and they think that that's the big key to it. But no, there's a physical component, a literal physical component to that as well, and there's biological proof of that. So there's two specific biological proofs of this theory. The first one is that, if you force yourself to smile, your body will start producing hormones that make you happier.
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah.
If you think about and anticipate relief from cold or pain or sadness, your body produces hormones to deal with that.
Really?
There's something called an oxytocin hug, and it's a 22-second hug, full embrace of somebody. Yeah. After 20 to 22 seconds, somewhere in that range, your body starts dumping oxytocin into your system from hugging somebody, even a stranger, right?
Really? The
chemical
touch,
that creates
touch.
Love. Just embracing another human being for that long will force your body to produce that.
That's why kids, the bonding and attachment disorder. Children at a young age, if they aren't held and cuddled and stuff.
Yeah.
My mom.
Yeah, that cry it out therapy. Yeah. Fuck, that is the craziest shit I've ever heard of. Yeah. Like, I'm not a helicopter parent advocate at all. Let kids go fucking get dirty and fuck
There's
up.
times you got to do it, but there's also times of like, hey,
you should never let a kid just sit there and cry by themselves. That's insane to me.
My mom explained this. She was like, I grew up in parents are in a group home, so I grew up in it, and we had a bunch of kids that came through our house, over 100, 200 kids that came through, and they're all different backgrounds. But my mom always said that with kids that have had trauma or anything like that, you want to try and get them to them early. And if they're laughing, they're listening. Get them to laugh again. Get them to because they've had to become adults really quick. And the way she explained it was, there's apples and there's onions. And for trauma, if you don't deal with a child at an early age that's an onion, they become an onion. They lose their core. So onion, the more you peel, the more you cry.
Right.
And you never get to that thing. But if you can get to that trauma, like an apple can be bruised to shit, but you can cut it open, find that seed, replant it. What do you get? You get a brand new apple.
Yeah.
But it's so important to that touch and that stuff where people over time, like I'm a really affectionate guy, and after having my daughter, I'm an emotional guy. I cry at American Idol. Like, I'm not even lying. I will be in tears. Okay, the fact that Ruben Studdard lost was devastating.
Dude, that was like 20 years ago.
I know. Listen, I'm obsessed. but I think going all the stuff you said, it's that being able to identify what the issue is, put focus on it, put intention on it.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to figure out this meditation shit. It's hard, man.
Meditating, I don't think is for everybody. I think there's a lot of different
I could do like
forms.
a minute, and then I'm like, I can't. And I've done like the mind whatever on the app thing.
Yeah.
And it does a countdown, and sometimes, but I just literally I can't. I don't know. Some people have massive benefits from it. Like they're off on other levels, and I've seen massive change in their life when they've at it. But maybe like my meditation is just like in recognizing what's good in the world. Like at least that's because you're forcing yourself to not have one negative thought. You're forcing yourself, and I've really found when I, cut out the booze, eat really well, really focus on getting like a hard workout in, and doing that. I know me. I know when I'm at my best is when I'm implementing those things. How I start my day. I get up. I'm an early riser, but when I get up and have just me time but I've never approached it with intention. So I'm gonna be texting you, being like, "This is my intention." No, it's a great way to like to focus in on the thought. Right?
You got to find a reminder for it, right?
A reminder.
So we would call it a talisman almost, right? Or the same way that Catholics have the rosary and Muslims have a prayer bead.
Yeah.
It's something to draw your focus back to the intention that you're trying to do there, right? So that fucking bracelet that you have on from, is that from Kelsey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the boot campaign gave it to me, but I didn't realize it was through Kelsey. And I wore this on the show.
Yeah. So something like that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be even a physical thing. Like maybe it's just staring at a tree in your fucking backyard, right?
Yeah. I have a tree, an oak tree, that I am convinced, like, it just is. It's like this. It brings you such peace.
Yeah.
When I saw this tree, when we bought this house, the reason I bought this tree, or bought the tree, but bought the house, was because of this tree in the backyard. It is the most beautiful oak tree I've ever seen in my life, and just with that moss hanging from it. And my wife and I have never had an official wedding. We got pregnant with Willow, and we had a wedding planned, but then we postponed it. And then we planned it again, and we got pregnant with the twins. So we're gonna have a backyard wedding.
Sweet.
One of these days. But I said to my wife when the day that we walked in through the door, and I hadn't even looked at the rest of the house, I saw that tree, and I was like, babe, I'm going to marry you under that tree. We're going to have our wedding. That's like, and that to me, when I go out in the backyard in the morning, I sit in the back porch, I have my dog Oak, and I sit there, have my cup of coffee by myself. It is dark, but that tree just brings me like.
Well, we're children of nature, right?
Yeah.
The entire species is, maybe every species is, I guess you could say, and there's a connection there. Like all of the early religions were about the forces of nature, right? If you think about it, like the god of thunder, the god, all this stuff, right? And it's true of Western and Eastern religions. It's true of native religions as well. And if you think of it in that way, going back to it is kind of like going back to your parents for advice, in a I guess in a cosmic way, right? Like you're going back to the source. Like, this is what I would have done. This is what my ancestors would have done 1,000 years ago. Why am I doing something different?
Do you ever wonder why we're kids first and then become adults second? Like as opposed to being like narrow-minded when you're born, and then more, like it should be the reverse, right? It's
maybe
through because you say I have life skills. I'm like this. Well, through life skills, you'd learn that, because kids don't like I love being a dad. It's my fucking favorite thing to do. When I get to go to, like, I coach I know nothing about football, and I coach my kids' football team, and it's awesome. But I just love being out there with them. But they just are so happy to, like, they get up and they just start running somewhere. They don't even know where they're going. Yeah. My son, for the longest time, kept running to walls because he was just liked to look at his feet when he ran. And I thought he had a problem. He kept running in the back of cars.
I mean, if he keeps doing that, he will have a problem.
But he's fine. I'm like, you got to look up some. But they're just so happy to do things. But it's like even that mindset of like, why are we, when we're born that way, we're like, when we don't know anything, yet we're so free. But yet when we learn more stuff, then that should expand our mind. Well,
the problem is we learn things and we never get rid of anything, right? Like there's a finite amount of space in your head. Yeah. And it's why you need to process things, because that'll store it away in cold storage for a while instead of having it, be attached to every single thing you do. Yeah, we got a big problem with that. And children are quite a bit more appreciative usually of what's going on around them in a way that's like visceral, not the way that we intentionally appreciate things. They experience joy in a way we don't.
They don't see race. They don't see anything.
They don't give a fuck about that shit.
They're literally like stepbrothers. Do we just become best friends? Like as soon as they meet, they're best friends with somebody. Yeah. They have play dates. But it is that having kids allows you to become a kid again. Like you gotta, like my daughter would want to play, the beauty salon with me, and I've got nail polish and my hair being done, and then the boys like want to build forts and like play guns outside and wrestle and do all the things that is the most fun, but you allow the rest of the bullshit of this world that, again, things you cannot control at all. Yeah. You're like, oh, I don't want to deal with that, right? It's like, why am I? Oh, I got to go play. And I've caught myself at certain times like, just give me a minute. I need to finish this. And then I realized what I just said. And I'm like, you know what? Put the phone down. Go play with your kids, because they're only going to be that young for. Yeah. And then it's gone.
Yeah, yeah. What's the phrase from Psalms 8? I think, out of the mouth of babes. Yeah. Right. Maybe we can learn something from them.
You quote the Bible.
I went to a seminary, my friend.
You did?
Studied comparative religion. Yep.
You are like the most interesting man in the world.
I'm not. Super boring. I'm not. I just know a lot of stuff because I read, which makes me boring.
What is
Well,
what's your the best all time book like you've ever read that like was like that changed you completely?
the second book in the Ender's Game series called Speaker for the Dead. Have you ever read the first one?
No.
So Ender's Game, spoiler alert, it's fucking 30 years old, is there's an alien species that the Earth has been at war with. They disappear for a while, but they're always like going to come back at some point, so they're getting ready to fight them. They start recruiting kids as like fighters, as basically as commanders to control the army and stuff like that. And there's a whole reason for that you could read in the book. So it goes through the process. They go through all the training, and what they don't realize, the main character Ender doesn't realize, is that the training, they're actually in battle. So he's commanding stuff, and then they wipe out the entire alien population, and he's struck with immense guilt for being a genocidal maniac, even though he didn't know he was doing it. And out of it, in the second book, springs this, I guess you could call it a religion, but it's more of a philosophy, and it's called a Speaker for the Dead. And what they do is someone dies, and you request a speaker to come to your planet, and they speak the death. They eulogize somebody, but they do it in a way that's not kind. They do it in a way, well, I mean, they do it in a way that's not nice, but it is kind. So they just say exactly what happened. This person was complicated. Here's some of the fucked up shit they did. Here's why they did it, because they were abused or whatever the fuck else. And the idea is that it's kind of like healing trauma through truth, right?
Yeah.
Like the only way to, I think Chappelle said it actually about all the Me Too shit, is that the only way we're ever going to get past all this is for everybody to say what they did and start moving on.
Yeah.
Right?
He's without sin cast the first stone.
So it's like, that's kind of what it is. Life is complicated. We all fuck up. Talk about it and
I feel like
as
long as you, again, the intention now is like my word of the day. As long as your intention is you're trying to improve yourself and get better, forgive and forget, move on. You know, everybody fucking makes mistakes.
I mean, give somebody the same amount of grace you would want in their situation.
That's a great way of looking at it. Yeah, which can be hard to do.
Yeah, it is. It should be hard to do, right?
Yeah.
But that's the point. Everything worth doing is fucking hard.
Sure.
We got to get out of here, but tell everybody what you got going on now.
I wrapped up SEAL Team. Did 7 seasons of that, and was best experience of my life. I got a bunch of. There's some things I can't talk about, but I sold a show, and I can't say what it is. It's my very first show, and I'm really proud of myself for that, because I kind of put the whole thing together on my own, and I'm working with some amazing people, so hopefully we'll be able to announce that pretty soon. Got a couple movies coming out. Just did a movie with Mel Gibson. It's untitled right now.
Is it Braveheart 2?
Dude, trust me, I was when I was doing a scene with him, and I'm looking at his beautiful blue eyes, and by the way, he is one of the greatest people ever. He is so insightful. Talk about a guy that, he had his issues and stuff with Hollywood and the things but he has done so many great things to help so many people, like getting Robert Downey sober and all these other people, and his ability to be selfless with so many people within the industry, and to get to work with someone like him, who I've idolized. They say never meet your heroes. I was praying that this guy was like going to be the guy I thought he was, and he was that and more. He was so kind, and I remember the very first time I was doing the scene with him, I kept messing up my line, and I was messing up my line because I kept going like, it's William Wallace. I'm doing a scene with William Wallace. But great dude. So I got a movie, that movie coming out. I got another movie called Bark coming out. It did the festival circuit last year and was put on the top 10 horror movies, horror thrillers that you haven't seen this year. And then I have a clothing line that I launched, which has been an experience in itself. It's more of a community that I'm trying to build out, a Born of Discipline. And you can go check that out on my Instagram, find those there. And there's a lot more coming with the Born of Discipline. I've just had to figure out the e-commerce side of it and understanding how to, we've got to make it easier to make things in America.
Yeah.
It is. I really want to have everything made in America, and it has been the biggest challenge of trying to get it done and then actually have any profit.
Yeah.
Because it just, you got to go to one guy that doesn't talk to this guy, and so you got to go to 4 different people. There's no like one place that you can go to get it all done, so people are forced to go overseas, and I've really not wanted to do that.
It's ridiculous.
So that, and then yeah, just grateful to see you and come on the show, and congrats on all the stuff you're doing, man.
Thanks.
I mean, you're just kicking ass.
Doing my best.
You are. That's your intention.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well, look, thanks for coming today. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, it was awesome.
We're gonna do a Drinking Bros soon. That'll be funner than this, maybe. We'll see how it
I
goes.
enjoy this, though.
Yeah, me
This is-
too. I like both. It's just
like
two
both.
different.
Yeah.
It's two different styles, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, there would probably be more butthole talk on that one. But we'll get there. And thanks for coming today. Appreciate it. And thank you all for listening. This has been Citizen.